What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we are talking about our second to last Druid subclass, and that is the Stars Druid introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. We've already looked to the moon for power, but can we get just as much power by looking to the stars? Let's find out today. But before we do, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. We just reached 1,600 subscribers yesterday, so thank you all so much for helping us reach that. We are on track to hit 2,000 by the end of this year, but I need your help to get there so that we do not slow down our pace. Of course, make sure to share the video with your friends and ring the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. So the Stars Druid draws on the love of astrology and the love of everything that is out there in the cosmos, minus moons, right? It's pretty much everything else. And we draw our power from the powers that are out there. And I think that that's so cool. We haven't had anything that is constellation based, which you would think that we would have gotten something like that before now, really, just because of how awesome and flavorful that is. In a campaign that a friend of mine is running, we had a Stars Druid, and she was she was covered in freckles, and those freckles would glow whenever she entered her starry form, and that was how she assumed all of her constellations. I thought that was super flavorful and super original, and I absolutely love that. There's so many awesome directions that you can go with this subclass flavor wise, but we're here to talk about mechanics. Is it good mechanically? Let's find out. Starting off at level 2, we get a couple of things, and we start off with our star map. This not only provides us with another spellcasting focus, but it gives us a number of benefits while we have it on us. Number 1, we get the guidance cantrip. Yes, you could have taken this as a druid, but now you don't have to, and it saves you a slot on your cantrips, but guidance is super good, so we wanted it anyway. So this is essentially a free druid cantrip in my eyes, because you should have taken guidance already if you didn't already get it for free here. We also get Guiding Bolt, which is a fantastic first level spell that we would normally not get as a druid. Normally you have to go to the cleric in order to get this, but it is a fantastic pickup, and we can cast it for free a number of times equal to our proficiency bonus. So 2 for now, and that's only going to go up. That's fantastic, because essentially it's a glorified cantrip for us, at least once we scale this up a little bit, and it's really, really good. It's especially good when you go right before the fighter or right before the paladin that wants to get a big hit, that sort of thing, and that way they have advantage on that next hit. You can really beef that up to make sure that they hit or possibly even crit, and that could just lead to all sorts of things. So I think that's really, really nice, and of course we get that back when we use a long rest, and it's still a druid spell. So even if we use all of our slots here from our proficiency bonus, we can still then turn around and cast it using our spell slots because it's a druid spell. If we are to lose the map, of course we can perform a little ceremony and get that back so it's never gone forever. And then we have a little table that tells us about kind of what the flavor could be, or you could write your own or just pick one. You don't have to roll for it, whatever you want to do. This is cool, right? We get 2 free spells out of this and a spellcasting focus, which the spellcasting focus is less of a big deal because that's more of a ribbon feature, but those 2 spells are not, and those are very handy. Guidance is one of the most spammable cantrips out there for team support, whether it's on you or on one of your allies. And of course, Guiding Bolt helps to set up that next person to do a huge amount of damage. That's awesome. I really, really like this, especially if you've got a paladin or a rogue coming up very soon. That is guaranteed sneak attack right there, as long as they hit. All of the good things out of this. Overall, I've got to give this a 9 out of 10. It's not the most busted thing in the world, but those are 2 fantastic spells, and we always want options, right? This gives us flavor. This also gives us function. You can't really go wrong with that. Also at level 2, we get Starry Form, and this is what allows us to transform into kind of a small constellation, which is really, really cool. So similar to the Spores Druid, how you can use your wild shape in order to turn into something different other than a beast, this does something similar. So as a bonus action, you can use one of your uses of wild shape and you transform into this starry form rather than into a beast. You of course maintain all of your regular stats. You do shed light around you, so good luck being sneaky like this, and you can dismiss it if you want to without using any kind of action. You do have to choose among 3 different choices here. Some of them are better than others, and we'll go through all 3 of them. Number 1 is the Archer. The Archer basically gives you a bonus action ranged spell attack that deals an okay amount of damage. It deals 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier, assuming that it hits, and it has a 60-foot range. That's not too bad, right? It's radiant damage, so I mean, that's good, right? Radiant damage is never something to scoff at. I think that's fine. But the damage is not crazy overall. I personally think Spiritual Weapon is better. I think that I would much rather use a different form than this and use Spiritual Weapon instead. That's just me, so this one's a little disappointing, but let's see what the others do. Chalice, it actually gives you a bonus to your healing when you use a spell slot. So whenever you use a spell slot in order to cast some kind of a healing spell, you or an ally that is within 30 feet of you can gain extra HP equal to 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier. Your wisdom modifier is probably in the 2 to 4 range at this point, depending on your standard array or point buy or whatever you ended up with. And so that's not an insignificant amount of healing at this point. Yes, this will fall off soon, but you have to consider that this is compounded on top of something else. This makes Healing Word that much better. This makes Cure Wounds that much better. That allows you to not necessarily have to spend a higher level spell slot when you would want to normally. So I mean, technically, if you're casting Cure Wounds at first level, this is still better than a second level casting, because you are already doubling the die, but you also get your wisdom modifier on top of it. So that's really nice. A really, really nice improvement to your healing. So, I mean, if nothing else, this is going to save you on spell slots, and that carries some value, right? Finally, the dragon, and the dragon gives us a couple of things here. So whenever we make a intelligence check or a wisdom check, or whenever we make a constitution saving throw in order to maintain concentration on a spell, we cannot roll lower than a 10. This is insanely useful. So at this level, even if you take a big hit, right, you have to take more than 21 damage in order to even have a chance of failing. And that's if your constitution modifier is 0. If you have a constitution modifier that is higher than that, then obviously this will go up. Your concentration checks have a base DC of 10, or it is half of whatever the damage is that was dealt to you. In this case, if you take less than 21 damage, then you literally can't fail this and you will not drop concentration. There is so much weight to this. And basically this means that if you really don't want to drop concentration, you could take Warcaster. But technically this makes Warcaster kind of optional, which is a weird thing to say on a Druid. You normally don't say that because it's kind of a thing that most of your full casters want to take. This one doesn't really need it. And that's a lot of value, because now not only are you getting an awesome feature, but you also now have an extra feat slot that you can use for an awesome feat, or you could use for an extra ASI in order to get you maxed out in your wisdom that much sooner. Either way, this is incredibly useful. So overall, Archer is okay, Chalice is good, Dragon is fantastic. Where does this land us overall? I'm going to put this at an 8. It's very useful. Archer is not bad per se, but it's not as good as something like Spiritual Weapon, and I would prefer to use that over this. Whereas Chalice and Dragon both have their place and are very potent at what they do, honestly. And spoiler alert, they're both going to scale later, and it's going to be very, very nice once we get there. At 6th level, we get Cosmic Omen, and this allows us to kind of get a feel for how the day is going to go, depending on what the stars look like. And it can help us or it can hurt the enemies, depending on what the stars tell us. How does this work? So whenever we start the day, we can roll a die. Doesn't really matter which die, but whenever you roll the die, whether it is even or odd, will make a difference in whether this is a good thing for you or a bad thing for your opponents. So whenever you roll an even number on said die, whenever there's a creature within 30 feet of you about to make an attack roll, saving throw, or ability check, you can use your reaction to roll a d6 and add that to the number. Obviously, you're probably not going to want to do this for your enemies because you don't want them succeeding on things, but this would allow you to get away with something that maybe almost didn't work out and you fail it by 1 or 2. This allows you to add a d6 to it. This is essentially low-level bardic inspiration used on a reactionary scale. So it's more limited than bardic inspiration, but the thing about bardic inspiration is that you've got to have that out beforehand. This is reactionary, which in some cases is going to be better because there are going to be times when you blew a bardic inspiration on somebody who never needed it, and there's somebody else on the battlefield that you wish you had done it to. As long as you're staying around people, you can give this out when needed. So yes, it doesn't scale, but I don't think it needs to because I think it's already pretty strong being able to use it on a reactionary scale. I don't mind it taking up our reaction. There's not a whole lot that we're going to be using that for anyway. So I don't mind that at all. So let's say we roll an odd number. What does that do? Well, it's the opposite. So whenever we see something that is rolling a attack roll, saving throw, or ability check, we can use our reaction to subtract the number from the total. That is also good for when, you know, you're getting attacked by the big bad and they beat the AC by 1 or 2. Blow this. That's a good time to do this. Whenever they need to make a grapple check, you can make them be worse at that, and your barbarian or your fighter or whoever can get in there and really have a great chance of succeeding. If saving throw, key saving throws are the big thing here because that is the difference between full damage and half damage on your fireballs. That is the big difference on a lot of these things. When the wizard really wants to stick that spell whenever there is hold person going out, and this isn't a spell, right? So you could be the caster here and buff your own spells. So that's definitely viable. That's definitely a thing that you can do. Yes, you won't have your reaction for the rest of the round, but still, that's a good use, right? You really want to get somebody in hold person. This could be the way to do it. And it just depending on what they roll. Overall, this is very potent, and you get to do this proficiency bonus times per day. So it's only going to get better. Overall, I think this is a 9 out of 10. It's very strong, right? Being able to help not only you or your allies be able to hit, make your saving throws, pass an ability check, anything like that, but you can buff your spells, you can buff your allies' spells or their weapon attacks or whatever it is that you need to happen. This is an amazing way to help out the team in a very versatile way. 30 feet is a great range. I don't think it needs to be any higher. D6 is a low die, but honestly, if you go any higher, this kind of gets out of hand. I think even a D8 would be too much. I think D6 is where it needs to stay just because it is on a reactionary note. Very strong ability. I think it can't go any lower than a 9. At level 10, we get Twinkling Constellations, and this is what kind of takes our level 2 ability from Starry Form and makes it even better. So we get to add an extra D8 to our Archer and our Chalice features. So now we have a bonus action attack that deals 2d8 plus our Wisdom modifier. We also can buff our heals or heal ourselves or a different ally for 2d8 plus our Wisdom modifier. And if we're using the dragon feature, then we also can just fly. We have a 20-foot non-concentration fly speed with the ability to hover, with the ability to not roll less than a 10 on our concentration checks. It's kind of insane. And if that wasn't enough, whenever we start our turns within our Starry Form, we can change that form just on a whim now. So there's a lot going on here. Number one, you have a 20-foot flying speed. Yes, it's a little lower than most people's walking speed. I don't mind it, to be honest. I think it's just so useful that I don't mind it being 20 feet. It's non-concentration. It's just part of your wild shape. You can just keep it up as long as you want. And then once you land, you could swap to Chalice. You can heal with Cure Wounds, and the next turn change back to Dragon if you wanted to. This gives you an awesome ability to be the most versatile druid out there and really be able to get the work done. The big theme to this subclass is the fact that you can be a lot more reactionary than necessarily having to be proactive. Yes, typically you want to be proactive in things, but being able to be reaction based on a subclass that doesn't gum up your action economy is rare. And it's powerful because it means you do not have to predict the future and predict the unknown. It means you can be ready for whatever comes up in whatever situation. That makes this very, very handy. Overall, this is a 10 out of 10 feature. I can't go any lower because of all of the improvements. Archer is now a 2d8 plus wisdom modifier. Chalice, very useful. I would be swapping between Chalice and Dragon depending on my proximity to the opponents. And then of course, Dragon being able to fly and being able to swap out everything. All of that is really, really powerful. Finally, at level 14, we get Full of Stars. While an unoriginal name, it's pretty strong. While we're in our starry form, we get resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. So not only have we taken away the need to go for Warcaster, we've also completely taken away the need to go for Rage. A lot of druids will go for Rage in order to get a bonus in damage to the wild shape, but also to help maintain the HP that you have while in said wild shape. This kind of negates the need for that because one, you're not turning into a beast, so you're not assuming any extra HP. You're still just on your own base HP. This essentially doubles that as far as I'm concerned, because bludgeoning, piercing, slashing is going to be 90% of the damage that you're going to take in a given campaign. Yes, there will be plenty of other types of damage, but it's going to be much more rare than your bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage over the course of a typical campaign. This is incredibly useful. Overall, this is a 9 out of 10 feature. Being able to be more bulky when you are not gaining that little bit of a buffer with wild shape is really handy. And I can't discount how nice it is to be able to be bulkier as a druid and not have to worry about only having a buffer of 20 or 30 hit points depending on your wild shape. This has your entire pool available to you with resistance. That's awesome. Throw on the tough beat and good luck dying. So where does this land us overall? This is a very strong subclass, as you can tell. I love this subclass. It is incredibly flavorful, but it is mechanically satisfying as well. It is a cohesive kit. It works together. There was one idea and it all worked out together rather than feeling like a hodgepodge of just random things thrown onto a page. It's awesome. It's really, really cool. It's really, really fun. So basically our metric is, our 10 out of 10 right now is the Moon Druid, our other space themed druid. Is it as good as the Moon Druid? In some ways, yes, because it is able to focus a lot more on spells than the Moon Druid is. The Moon Druid focuses on our wild shape feature pretty much only and makes that feature really, really, really strong. This focuses on you being a druid and being able to cast your druid spells and be able to not lose concentration on them and do all of these fun things that are just amazing, right? So, is it better than the Moon Druid? I don't think so. And I know that that's not exactly the most popular of opinions out there, because I know a lot of people love this subclass. I love it too, but I think that the Moon Druid is ever so slightly better. So for that reason, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10 overall. And when I say 9, I feel like it's more of a like 9.5. It's a very high 9. It's an incredible subclass. I think that Wizards really did a great job with it. It's very strong, but it's great. It's flavorful. It's not boring like some of the other ones are that are powerful. It's not just power written on a page. There's a story here, right? And that carries a lot of value in my book, being able to craft a story around it while also be incredibly mechanically satisfying. It's the full package. So that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Of course, later this week, we're going to build one of these together and you are not going to want to miss it. It is a fun build and you all are going to really enjoy that. Until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.